So 50 years of continuous service at the ground where there's a statue out the front. You're a legend. You've lived the whole football journey, haven't you, Malcolm?
Yeah, actually, I was going to say a lot of things tonight, but every line's been pinched by someone up here before me. And I thought I was going to be unique, and so I've been in the game for 50 years, and John Halbert goes and knocked me off with 57 years. So, yeah, what can you say other than, geez, I'm glad I'm here.
Yes, there's so much to choose from, Malcolm. How vivid is it? How vivid are the great moments of your life?
Jerry, there's absolutely no doubt, and I've said this to a lot of people probably in the room too, I can still recall my name being read out on radio in Adelaide when I played my first ever game for Woodville. It is still the most nervous I've ever been in my whole life. That night, I did kick 3 goals too, by the way, for the record books, just get that right. However, that Saturday night, I went home, I was absolutely exhausted, petrified. We played Glenelg at Glenelg. I walked in the door and said, Mum, I'm going to bed. She said, you're what? I was a Saturday night expert, I can tell you, everyone. I could find what trouble on Saturday night, but I went to bed for the first time ever and always went out on a Saturday night, except for that one game. I was as nervous as hell.
So Woodville was such a big part of your life growing up, proximity. You weren't originally a Woodville fan, though.
No, I followed Port Adelaide because there was a great Mr and Mrs Johns lived behind us. Rex Johns, for all the Port Adelaide supporters, a great full forward. They lived behind us, so I actually followed Port until Woodville came into the competition.
What sort of thrill was it to be able to play for those years for them?
You grew up with those guys, you know, you went to school with them, you played all your junior footy, you played at high school with them. So they were your mates. I mean, they were their fair dinkum mates, so it was just an absolute thrill.
Would you have been satisfied, do you think, Malcolm, if you'd played all your days here in South Australia?
Yeah, I really can't answer that. It was just something I felt itchy. I did want to get my name on the locker at Woodville, you know, some of the great players I'd followed, so I wanted to play 100 games. So after the carnival, which Graham mentioned, I'd actually spoken to a few clubs and I just didn't want to go, you know, I just wanted to play 100 games. So I waited 18 months before I actually, with a young wife, made the trip over.
What was the kicker that made you go in the end?
I think it's a myriad of things. Probably a thing called money, maybe. It wasn't big money in those days because we were all still working, of course. But no, I don't know. I played state footy and I think it was just the challenge of, I don't know, start a life, just see what happens.
And it started a relationship. I'd call it love-hate, but it might overestimate love. What was your relationship with Ron Barassi?
There's a few blokes in the room will know. It was interesting. He was demanding, there's no doubt about it. And I probably took a bit of that too when I coached, and most coaches do. But you respected him for what he'd done in football, and his history was enormous. So, when I signed with North Melbourne, they'd won one game. You know, to actually then go and play in 5 or 6 grand finals in a row. Life said a little bit about timing, and it was just pure luck that I ended up with a group that is the most decorated team in this environment. There were 8 players in the Hall of Fame, and the coach makes 9. So it was a super team that we went to. We came from all parts of the world. From, you know, you heard about Shimmer and Greggy and Dench and the local boys, and you had the older players and Caves and myself from interstate. It was really a foreign legion, but Brass got us to gel okay. There
were moments that played out rather publicly with him, weren't there?
Yeah, many. Yeah, he was. There was a day at Arden Street. We were playing Melbourne. We were sort of near the top, they were at the bottom, and it was a pretty tight game actually. And I kicked the left foot. You probably saw that. I did go to my left a bit, and I kicked the left foot check side from that pocket from about 35, 40 metres out and put us about 3.5 goals in front. So I thought I'd done a fabulous job. Anyhow, the runner came out and said, you're off. And in those days, interchange meant something. It was either for injury or the coach could hook you. Mm-hmm. That was all it's used for. Anyhow, so that following Monday, Brass wrote in the Truth newspaper, I'm going to show this bloke. He's undisciplined. He wouldn't get 1 out of 20 again by not centering the ball, the discipline thing. So anyhow, that Thursday night, there was a whole host of media people at the club. Anyhow, so Brass threw me the ball, right, you're going to do this. You won't get 1 out of 20. Cut a very long story short, on the day I had 2 or 3 metres up my sleeve. Him bowled me into the ground every time I kicked the ball. So he was right up my ginger. Anyhow, to finish the story, after 10, I'd kicked 4 goals, hit the post twice and never not scored. He just grabbed hold of the ball and he said, "That's crap, get out of here." So he actually didn't get it. So, I mean, that was one of the stories that worked out all right for me. They all didn't, though, I can assure you.
You not only played for Victoria, you captained Victoria, which seems like sacrilege.
Well, it was. Brass was good on that too. Geez, I wish he was here tonight. No, it doesn't matter. We'd come over to South Australia and I ended up captaining Victoria, and once again at training, the first 10 minutes of training was him talking how pathetic, use that word again, how pathetic that was for a South Australian to be made captain of Victoria and that all the Victorian state selectors should be sacked. I felt really good at training that night.
The torpedo might be the most famous kick the game has documented. How does it live with you? Is that the most common thing people ask you about?
Yeah, there was 148,000 people at Princes Park that day. The ground only fitted 35,000, but one of the other things is it's fascinating even now to look on YouTube, which is one of these great little things, you probably know about it. But you can actually see that all the time, and I have 8 and 10 and 12-year-old people come up and say, "Jesus, mister, you can kick the footy." I mean, it is amazing, isn't it? It was a fairly good kick. The debate on the length of it goes on forever. And if anyone says, "Was that 83?" and I said, "No, it was 89." And if they say it was 93, I said, "No, it was 98. So it's just it's actually, if I didn't do anything else in footy, I might be famous for just one thing.
You did plenty more. What was the game playing it? You were so natural. There was an artistry to the way that you played it. It seemed very pure. What was it to you?
Yeah, it was like everyone that's been up here tonight, and probably anyone in the room. It was your boyhood dream. So I just couldn't imagine. Our forefathers did a magnificent job. Fancy making a game where you have to score to win. You know, it's not the lowest score, it's the highest score. So when I started playing football, I always saw the scoreboard at the end of the game, and the one that kicked the most goals won. So my philosophy was, just kick one more than the opposition. Now, some other coaches like defence, and I think defence is essential, but I think defence is also part of perhaps you're not getting it right the other way. So I took the tack of kick more goals than them.
So when you played, you're a bit of a free spirit, would you say?
Probably very free spirit. Yeah, no, see ball, get ball. I think most players in the room would be the same. You know, I probably went hard in the air. I mean, I didn't mind taking a hanger, and I didn't mind having a ping at goals. So I guess that sometimes makes it a bit of a free spirit.
So how did that marry up with coaching? Did you ever have any sympathy for Ron going, "Oh, so that's what it was like"?
Yeah, I coached some guys, but I actually found that most of the really, really good players, if I can make them a fraction better, I became a better coach. And the great players, you know, I've actually coached some fantastic players, and hopefully they enjoyed their footy. I mean, there was tough times. I mean, you can't go through a footy season and a footy career like I've been through or anyone goes through. I mean, there are some bloody tough times. But gee, there's some magnificent times too. And I think I always enjoyed winning and playing well, and hopefully the guys I coached took that on board.
So what was the dynamic around winning those flags with Adelaide, which did seem to bring the story full circle?
Yeah, you couldn't have written a script. You know, with all the things that have happened prior to that, with my time at Geelong, etc., to actually turn up in Adelaide. I thought I was coaching the state team. You know, I didn't get the chance to do that. So it was just one of those things that just, I don't know, every time a little piece of the jigsaw puzzle just kept on dropping in. And then to win 4 finals in a row, which has never been done before. Bulldogs did it last year, of course. I mean, it was just a remarkable effort. The other thing that was most interesting to me, I think there were 7 blokes under 22, of which Simon's one of those, and a lot of his teammates he mentioned. It was a pretty young team, but they've all gone on to play 300 games, and a lot of them have been great players. So it was a hidden talent that just emerged. Whoops.
How important was it to do it again, just to show that it wasn't a fluke?
Yeah, look, it was. Yeah, I think it was. And you know, Mark Rasciuto, who's part of this, he'd missed out. Peter Vardy, they were 2 very important team members of that. So you know, there was a bit of a swelling up in the team. Let's give it for those guys because they're pretty good players for us.
So what's it all meant to you, Malcolm? What's footy meant to you?
I've tried to think of a reason to say and make a really smart answer, but it's been me, I think. Like everyone here, I mean, I just reckon there's a sharing in the heart. You know, somehow or other, someone put that in me as a kid, and it's just grown with my family and all the people around me. 50 seasons is a long time, and I don't think you last that long if you're not having a crack at it or good at it, probably. But I just think I still love the game now. I'll watch most. Ask my wife. I'll watch most games of footy still on the weekend when I possibly can. It's a bit silly, really, if you think about it. But between golf and footy, I'm okay.
A full card. You might have a few thank yous to finish, Malcolm.
Yeah, look, I won't take you along. As I said, the boys have said a lot. I would actually like to thank the selection panel. I think they've been named here before. Having a lot of people in here having had selection issues, it's the machinations of that and the toughness of that. I accept your responsibilities. I thank you for it, and I'm sure everyone in the room that's been in this position thanks them for it. It's certainly a job that takes some doing. Now, I agree. On the table over there, as Anthony talked about before, a good North Melbourne, is my closest family members. Couldn't fit them all in because it's a pretty big family. However, they're here because of that. And just also someone else, John and Di Reid, that has got to mention, for the last 35 years have been very much part of our family. So it's great to have them on the table. There's also a lady there that I mentioned before that my wife Patsy has been on this journey with me the whole way. Hell, what she's had to put up with. I just know I wouldn't be standing here if it wasn't for her and her being her, and I love her dearly for that. You just can't imagine how many people that you've met, what footy's done, how many places I've been to. It used to be said that we didn't have a game that you could represent your country. Well, we do now. I've travelled to nearly every city, every country town in Australia. I've also travelled overseas and played our game. It is one of the great things now that the AFL and the brand has done for every kid. We can play, we can represent our country. This is a great night. And you know why it's a great night? And everyone says it's a great night. It's just not saying it. It actually acts out what football clubs represent. Sure, it's the players. Sure, it's the coaches. But the actual thing I love about this is that the administration gets a mention. The umpires get a mention and the media get a mention. Now, we all have our differences and issues with all sorts of things in the game, but we are the family of football, and all those are represented here tonight, and I think that's why this is the greatest night of all. I was surprised when previous chairman Mike Fitzpatrick rang me. I thought he was going to talk about something about the Gold Coast Suns and what am I not doing or should we else be doing, and all the other things. I've been involved with a lot of great clubs. I've enjoyed my time at every one of them. Some haven't ended beautifully, but then again, life's not perfect. The AFL is a wonderful brand, spending a bit of time in the northern states now, and we must protect that and keep investing in it. But you know the thing I love more than anything, and why my heart is still a Sharon, is I know now that every boy and every girl in this country can play our game and love it. I've enormously loved my family. I've loved them being here. I've loved the closeness of it. They've been fantastic to me. I love the game of footy. It's been good to me. Hopefully I've given something back. But one of the things I'd still like to see before this last quarter I'm now leading, I don't know how long I've got to go in the quarter, but I know it's going to win somewhere. but I'd still love to see the AFL brand just continue to grow and prosper. Congratulations, everyone.